All right, good afternoon, Bay District Schools, and welcome to the 17-18 school year. I am Sharon Mahalik, and usually at this time I say I am the Executive Director of HR. But this time this year, I am going to say that I am the outgoing Executive Director of HR. So it is my pleasure at this time to introduce you to the incoming Executive Director of HR, Mr. Cannon, who will be taking over my role. So he will be taking the first half of the presentation this afternoon, and I will come back for the second half. So some people already know about my transition, but those of you who don't, I was offered the amazing opportunity to take over as the Director of Communications. So I will be stepping into that new role, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So we are broadcasting live this afternoon from Jinx, home of the Hornets. Let's get a round of applause. But I'd also like to welcome some other people to our presentation. We are also joined this afternoon by VPK and ESE Pre-K. We've got Everett watching with us this afternoon, MKL, Bay High, Callaway, Bay Virtual School, Rosenwald and Mosley, the teams from Student Services, Cedar Grove, Springfield, Waller, Haney, Arnold High School, and Lucille Moore are all joining us this afternoon. So welcome. We hope to bring you a lot of information this afternoon, a lot of information about the resources we have for you. And of course, when I come back and join the group, there'll be some of those funny stories that you guys have come to expect. So we will have lots of information and lots of laughter. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cannon, who will take it away.
All right, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to be at Jinx Middle School this afternoon, a place where I've had the good fortune to spend some really good times over the course of the years. My title slide says Focusing on Human Resources, and I feel right at home because your t-shirts all say Jinx is leading with a focus. So we're right on the same wavelength. I like that a lot. All right, so as Sharon just mentioned, I'm the incoming Human Resources Director, and I'm really pleased to be taking over that role. Today, we will be seeing if our clicker works. There we go. We got an agenda today, and among the things that we'll be talking about will be Florida's Code of Ethics and Principles for Professional Conduct. We'll talk about communication, our social media policy here in Bay District, mandatory reporting, the Best and Brightest Teacher Scholarship Program, critical shortage areas for the 17-18 school year, as well as some other requested topics that were made of me by some teachers and some administrators around the district. So having said that, I was talking to the school board the other day about my excitement about taking over this role, and one of my goals is to make Bay Districts and to keep it just the highest quality workforce that there is. I've worked in lots of districts all over the state of Florida, particularly in the Panhandle. Guys, our district is upper crust. We've got a lot going for us in terms of between Escambia and Madison counties. We're excellent, and I want our workforce to continue that excellence. Understanding this Code of Ethics and Principles for Professional Conduct is part of that. Maybe you've seen it before. This is a graphic that you might have seen maybe on the state's website. You can access it at the link that's listed up there, or if you just Google Code of Ethics and Principles for Professional Conduct and include the word Florida, it'll be specific to our state. So how is it organized? The Ethics and Principles for Professional Conduct say it's all organized around two big tenets. The educator's primary professional concern will always be for the student and for the development of the student's potential. Does that sound pretty good? Yeah, it sounds a lot like what we heard at our keynote at the rally the other day, right? It's all got to be about the kids every day. But also, secondly, the educator has to strive to achieve and sustain the highest degree of ethical conduct. We are held to a higher standard just by virtue of our profession. We are looked up to by people that are around us, and our stakeholders expect that of us. So let's flesh out exactly what that means. We have obligations to students, we have obligations to the public, and we have obligations to the profession. Let's start with students. So obligations to the student include the educator will commit to the academic openness, fairness, honesty, and objectivity to students and to the learning material. Now, to me, this means understanding our standards completely, understanding our curriculum, having faith in it, and communicating that to the kids, because you guys know if they don't buy in, if they know that we're not buying in, they're not going to buy in either, right? But what this also means is that all students have equal access to this, the standards in the curriculum also. So we're taking care of that in Bay District through a variety of means. Our ELA department, our math department are doing big things for us right now. But also the educators got to avoid the harassment of, embarrassment of, or discrimination against students, okay? There's lots and lots of educational research that will tell you that if kids aren't comfortable and they don't feel safe at school, then there's very little chance that they'll learn what you need them to learn. So they've got to feel safe, and as teachers, we're part of that. That's our responsibility. So what's that mean in terms of guidelines and common sense? Guidelines and common sense. Maintain a professional barrier between you and your students. You are the adult, the teacher, and the professional. Act like the expert and not like another one of the kids. So that's a good way to head off a lot of problems that we've seen in the past. Maintain that professional barrier between you and the children. Refer students to the appropriate resource person for counseling and or discussion about personal matters. We've all had that moment when we've realized that the student has let us in on some things that we're not qualified to handle. So we all need to know who the person to refer kids to when that time comes. At my school, I just came from West Bay, so that was my guidance counselor almost always. So just know when to refer them over. Do not discuss your personal life or personal matters with students, and that includes your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, or the dates that you go on. That's just, I think that falls under the common sense side, right? Guidelines of common sense. Don't make telephone calls or write notes of a personal nature to students. Avoid leaving students unsupervised, and that has specific meaning for our elementary school teachers this year as we enter where we have mandatory recess in place. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. Don't harass students, respect their differences. What you intend as humor may in fact be cultural bias or harassment. I'm reminded of the teacher that I worked with long ago that liked to give kids nicknames. And it's hard. We all like to keep things light. We all like to joke around with the kids and all this other. But he, instead of like using their nicknames, he would assign them nicknames. And a lot of kids just didn't like that. And so you have to be careful. You want to keep it light, but what you intend as humor could be misinterpreted by the kids. So just remember that. And also, as part of these guidelines and common sense, use verbal praise and encouragement with the kids. Let them know that you value what they do and when they're doing good work. All right, so let's keep things going and talk about our obligations to the public. Here, the principals say that the educator will distinguish between personal views and views of the educational institution with which the educator is affiliated. And here, this just makes me think about the quality of our system and the age that we live in. Right now, kids are available to choose lots of educational options. There's public school, there's charter schools, there's private schools, there's virtual schools, there's homeschools. We are offering a product to the kids and their families, and we want that to be the best possible product, and we need to espouse that as well. The educator will also refuse to accept gifts or favors which influence professional judgment. And the educator will also avoid using their professional position for personal gain or advantage. So in terms of guidelines and common sense, what does that mean? Here's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do. If you don't already, know the laws, know your school board policies that apply to you, and know your school rules, and more importantly, follow them. Know your rights, know what's expected of you, know your job description, know what's in your contract. Always know the educated employee is always the best employee. Know your school policies and your district and state laws regarding collecting money, purchasing equipment, and follow them. Work in pairs. Here's a good suggestion. Work in pairs when collecting larger amounts of money. Always have backup and always have a second set of eyes. These are good for communication and good for collaboration as teachers as well. Establish a policy regarding your grading system. Consistent with your school and district policies, give a written explanation of it to students and parents at the beginning of the school year or the beginning of the term. It's always good to let parents know what to expect, and the kids as well. And also establish a policy regarding your behavioral management system also. So what's that look like when we talk to shifting to the obligations to the profession? So we've talked about the kids, we've talked about the public, now let's talk about each other, our peers, right? Teaching's hard enough. We need to be sweet to each other, don't we? We've got to make work easier. So here it says that the educator will respect and be fair to colleagues. The educator will report alleged violations of state or local board policy rules by other educators. The educator will avoid misrepresenting qualifications or assisting unqualified personnel to gain or continue employment in the profession. Honesty is always the best policy there. But the educator will also self-report within 48 hours to appropriate authorities any arrests or charges involving child abuse or the sale or possession of a controlled substance, okay? And this verbiage is lifted straight from the Code of Ethics, state law, since 1982. So what's this look like in terms of guidelines and common sense? Keep your coworkers and teachers informed, work and communicate as a team, Plan and teach together. There is decades and decades of good educational research on effective school correlates that will tell you that schools where teachers collaborate meaningfully with one another, great student achievement results follow, and school culture is improved as well. So collaborating impacts the school amazingly on lots of different levels. Guidelines and common sense: communicate with parents and document your communication. We've got lots of avenues to do that. Lots of people are using Class Dojo now. Parent portal is excellent, email, and there's lots of other things that you can use. Dress up and act appropriately and professionally. You're a role model in the community as well as in the school. Be a good example for students. You see them out and about in public away from the school, don't you? Yeah, they want to know that they can count on you to be a good role model no matter where they are. Use common sense and good judgment. Ask yourself how someone else could perceive your comments or actions. Ask yourself if your comments or actions could be taken out of context and or misinterpreted. So just be mindful. And then lastly, maintain a professional reputation in the community. And with if we do all these things, I think that should not be a problem. So that's your professional, your code of ethics. That leads to a talk about professional communication. And there's two different ways that we're going to discuss this today. We are going to talk about communication with parents and then communication with our peers as well. So in terms of communication with parents, there's Bay District policy that speaks to this. It's not just a great idea, there's local policy, and it's in chapter 9. So school personnel at all levels should strive to the greatest extent possible to engage in regular and meaningful communication with students' parents and to engage the participation of parents in the educational life of their child and in their child's school. Those effective school correlates that I mentioned just a minute ago, parent involvement is one of those. If you could look up lots of different research. The research base that I dealt with at West Bay was the U Chicago 5 Essentials research. And one of those big 5 is parent involvement. So it's expected and it yields results. So how do you develop positive relationships with your parents? In thinking about this and looking, I found a good article on Edutopia, and the link is there. You can look it up. But the advice there is, well, when you're dealing with parents, smile when you see them. That's a good disarming technique, and it lets them know that you're happy to see them. Learn their names. Third, it says to declare your intention. And in this article, what that means is make sure that they know that your best interest is at their child. Well, I want them to have the best educational year that we can have. I want them to learn everything they can, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens. Make sure that they know that you're in it for them. Communicate often and in various forms, and we've talked about the different platforms we have for that. Make a positive phone call home when you can, right? And then also, lastly, if you have to make a phone call that's not so positive, always lead with good news. Say something good before you have to get to the other stuff. So that's communicating with parents. I was also asked to address communicating with colleagues. So we'll go back to the principles of professional conduct for this one. The quote there is, again, lifted straight from the policy. Educators shall not engage in harassment or discriminatory conduct with unreasonably interferes with an individual's performance of professional or work responsibilities, or with the orderly processes of education, this is the important part, which creates a hostile, intimidating, abusive, offensive, or oppressive environment. Furthermore, if you see it happening to other people, it's your duty to report that to your building manager, okay? It's all of our responsibilities to make sure that our communication with our colleagues and our school environment on an adult level is A-okay and that everybody's good. Lastly, teachers shall not make malicious or intentionally false statements about a colleague. I mean, it sounds outrageous when you look at it on the face, but I've seen it happen. I mean, sometimes you just have to tell people, that's not okay, you don't do that. So, professional communication. Further on, if you don't have any experience with this notion here, this is called soft skills. And there is a National Soft Skills Association. You can Google the website and look that up. It's excellent. This is a set of skills that will enable you to work effectively with your colleagues if you keep them in mind as you work, unless you're somebody who it just comes naturally to. So soft skills is a simple term for a complex set of personal qualities that help make an individual a positive and contributing member of any organization. Soft skills include a positive attitude, communication skills, planning and organizing, critical thinking, teamwork, and more. Okay? And since PLCs are such a huge, huge thing here in Bay District, and again, collaboration is an effective school correlate, so they should be, these are things that we need to be thinking about as we work together with our peers. Why is it important? Okay, if you go to the website, you'll see this graphic. It houses research and documents that will tell you that research conducted by Harvard, the Carnegie Foundation, Stanford, every one of them has concluded that 85% of job success comes from having what? Well-developed soft skills. 85% of your job success comes from having well-developed soft skills. The other 15% depends on your hard skills. You have to have technical knowledge and all this other. But if you're good at working with people, I mean, look at the chances you're going to be successful at your job. So it's worth looking up if you don't know anything about it. And also found this one on Education World, being a team player, collaborating with your colleagues. Tips and good things to do. Always ask questions. The smartest people I know ask lots of questions. So be smart. Ask questions, right? Seek support. Ask for advice. Actively seek support from people that you know you're going to work with. Be humble. Always good advice. And then plan with others, and that's an expectation here in Bay District with our PLCs. All right, so that's collaboration with colleagues. I've been asked to touch on social media policy. Sharon's going to get into this a little bit deeper later on. But just know, folks, that social media policy is in Chapter 3 of our board policy. It's a relatively recent addition, but it's all geared toward, raise your hand if you've got a Facebook page or one of those, if we're all social media users and consumers, right? Just be careful, right? What the policy says is that employees will be expected to follow the same professional conduct guidelines online as they would in the workplace. So all that stuff we just talked about with the Code of Ethics, fold that onto your Facebook page. And also you may be personally liable for anything you post to social media sites and platforms. So there's 6 big things that are in the policy, and again, you can have a look at these, but always protect confidential, proprietary, and sensitive information. I've seen instances where people have posted pictures of kids that they shouldn't have, and parents were not happy with that. Instances where teachers have posted pictures of student work that they should not have, so just be very careful with what you post online. Follow district policies and avoid discrimination. Avoid discrimination. Avoid discrimination. Don't use district or school logos. You don't want to make like you're representing the district or the school when you're not. Respect professional time and property. You have ethical responsibilities is number 5. We just talked that through. And then number 6, just be cautious. Just be cautious. Think twice before you post it. All right, so moving to mandatory reporting of child abuse, abandonment, and neglect. And this is Bay District Policy in Chapter 3 also. You can see the logo I've got up top, Florida Department of Children and Families. It's real important to know teachers are mandatory reporters of any child abuse or neglect that you see, okay? All teachers, administrators, and other personnel who know or have reasonable cause to suspect that a child is abused, abandoned, neglected, or that a child is in need of supervision and care and has no parent, legal custodian, or responsible adult or relative immediately known, you must report. You must report. And again, in the keynote the other day, we heard, you know, we're superheroes, and sometimes it's hard when you see things and you're afraid and you don't know exactly what's going to go on, but you have to put on that cape and be that superhero for the child who may be being abused. You have to have it, at least have it investigated. Also good to know, you also are required to report reports involving known or suspected institutional child abuse, reports involving a known or suspected juvenile sex offender, or a child who has exhibited inappropriate sexual behavior, or reports involving surrendered newborn infants, okay? And so what I would say to that is it's scary, it can be, but report with confidence, okay? Because there is Florida law that protects you, and all these reports are held confidential. You can look up that statute if you want. It's Section 39.202, all this other. But there's Florida law that protects you. Report with confidence and know that you will be anonymous. Also important to know that failure to report could result in a third-degree felony. So just know that. That's relatively new stuff too. Just when in doubt, talk to somebody and report it. So there's 3 ways that I know of to report. You can go to the website, and there's an online reporting form. You can report by phone, and the phone number is there, or what my experience as principal has been, and other folks have told me as well, faxing is probably the easiest, quickest way to do it and get it done and have it done and off your conscience. So fill it out, fax it over, and there you go. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about something happy. The Best and Brightest Teacher Scholarship Program is something that was put into effect by Florida's legislature just a few years ago. It is geared toward attracting great people into the profession of teaching. And what that looks like this year is there is a scholarship available in the amount of $6,000 for qualified teachers. A friend of mine and I were talking about it the other day, and they said a scholarship that you have to spend on like school, and no, this is like a bonus that goes into your checking account. So the scholarship amount this year is $6,000. To qualify, you have to have achieved a composite score, that's reading and math, at or above the 80th percentile on either the SAT or the ACT, according to the norms of the year which you took the test. So if you aced it, and got 80th percentile or above when you took it, you could qualify for the scholarship. But you also have to have been rated highly effective the previous year, unless you're a new hire and you don't have a rating. But you can still qualify for it, just based on your scores. So if you think you're somebody who's going to qualify for this, go ahead and start gathering up that information, because you'll be getting more information from this on me, because the state is promising me technical guidance on it. But in order to demonstrate eligibility, you have to submit to the school district no later than November 1, your official testing scores. So be thinking about it and be looking for an email from me regarding that. Good news. A change to the Best and Brightest. You may have heard, oh, it's changing, it's changing. It's not changing until 2020, 21. And at that point, the percentile drops to the 77th percentile, unless you are a great student in college, cum laude or above, and then it drops to the 71st. So that's just good information to know into the not-so-distant future. Also important for Bay District teachers to know that we still have critical shortage areas where we need teachers. This year it includes pre-K, autism, reading 612, physics, chemistry, Latin, visually impaired, math 612, and biology. And what you guys need to know is that we offer one-time bonuses of $5,000 for a new teacher who has a certification in one of those areas. Or if you're an existing teacher and add that certificate and teach in one of those areas, that's $1,000 for you. So if you think that is going to apply to you and you want to pursue that, forms are in the new hire packet if you're a new hire, or if not, they'll be emailed out by HR, by me, tomorrow afternoon. So you look for an email from me on that. The form will look like that, and I'd be happy to put you on the path to seeing whether or not you would qualify for some of that money and help the district. I was asked to talk just a little bit about leave, and importantly, just know that this is in Chapter 3 of Board Policy. It's written down. Sick leave, each member of the instructional staff employed on a full-time basis gets 4 sick days on the first day of employment, and then adds a day per month after that. And then in terms of personal leave, this is something not everybody knows, but all full-time teachers should be entitled to 6 days of personal leave each year, and that leave comes out of your sick bank. So it's not 6 extra days, it's just 6 days you can call personal out of your sick. Personal leave can't be taken on the workday preceding or following a holiday, except with the approval of your building manager, and teachers will not be required to give reasons for personal leave. So that's Chapter 3 if you want to look that up. Chalk. So there's some changes to chalk. The form is different now. It looks like this. That's simpler, isn't it? That's nice. That big grid that used to be down here in the middle, all that's gone. There's just a single line to report on now, and that's really good. So what you need to know about that is there's just one line available now. If you're requesting multiple consecutive absences, please use the date range. And if you're requesting multiple non-consecutive absences, you would just use multiple forms for that. So if you're a person who bookmarked the link and has it saved someplace other than on your desktop, you want to update that because the link is going to be different this year. Also, if you need a tutorial, Beverly Finley sent out a video not very long ago on your email. Check that. It's a great tutorial. Always submit leave forms to your cost center, and that's for folks who work in multiple schools like coaches and things like that. So if you're going to take leave, make sure it comes from your cost center, your home school. Leave for teachers can be taken in whole or half-day increments, not hours. And any chalk questions go to your payroll person. And at my school at West Bay, that was my confidential secretary, and she's awesome. And she was great about letting me know also when payroll was due so that I didn't get stuck with unpaid leave. So make sure that your leave always gets in on time. I was asked to talk about cell phone use, specifically texting during instructional time and during student contact time. There's nothing in policy that talks about this. There is policy that talks about the BYOD policy that we have in place, bring your own device for the kids. BYOD talks about how kids shouldn't use their phones to pick on each other and disrupt class and all that other. And if they make phone calls, it's got to be under the supervision of a teacher and all that other. So, what's good for the kids is good for us too. What I would be mindful of is cell phone use during student contact time is student supervision, okay? There is a policy in Chapter 4 that talks about student supervision, and those who, willingly fail to supervise their kids while they're on duty could be charged with willful neglect of duty. So just be very careful. Don't let that phone distract you from your instructional duties. I know it's a very powerful tool. We use it for instructional things in class all the time, but if it's distracting you and keeping you from doing your thing and something happens, none of us need that happening to us. So just be careful with your cell phones. Pepper spray, for our knowledge, is not allowed on any campuses. This was a question that someone brought up. According to 2 different policies in Bay District, not only is it a weapon, it's a chemical weapon. So don't be bringing pepper spray to school, and don't tolerate it when students or parents or nobody brings pepper spray to school. If you've got questions or issues with that, make sure your building level administrator knows. And then lastly, this is new, religious expression. I don't have any technical guidance on how to interpret this. I'll just read it to you as it came to me, okay? Students in Florida's public school, this is a new. Students in Florida's public schools cannot be punished for including religious materials in their coursework. And they may pray at school during non-course time. So if they're anticipating a really tough test, give them a break. It further states that school employees also may participate voluntarily in religious activities that are initiated by students, okay, before or after the school day. So that's all I know about that for right now, and as more information comes to me, I will be sure to share with you. All right, having said all of that, thank you so much for your attention. You're an excellent audience, and I'm going to turn things back over to, what do I call you?
Well, I don't know. Glenda's a good All right, so let me explain the outfit,
Just
right?
use your wand.
So I know that when my little orange car pulls up at schools, you people have a network, and you call each other and you say, she's here. Sometimes though, I'm coming to talk to somebody about a promotion, it's a good deal, they want to know about how to become an administrator or something. Sometimes it's true, I'm coming for a difficult conversation. So I also know that some people have compared my role in the district to a fictional character in a children's movie who wears red, sparkly shoes. I love shoes, okay? So I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and I said to her, I am so glad to be moving on and have this opportunity to have my dream job, because I am no longer the person who wears the red sparkly shoes. I get to take on this new role of Glenda the Good Witch, because when my little orange car shows up now, I'm going to be walking into classrooms saying positive PR for you and you and you. I'm so excited. It's all good news. So my friend, who's very creative, made me the Glenda the Good Witch outfit. So here I am. So I've also just been informed that the good folks at Arnold High School, Gordy Pongratz, has developed an HR Live bingo. They are playing bingo out there at Arnold. So I'm got my phone here, and I'm going to try to hook a brother up and hit some of the terms that are on his bingo sheet. So if I glance at my phone, I'm trying to help him out. So anyway, this is my last HR presentation, and I do love this venue to talk to you guys. So I am all things sunshine and puppy dogs this time, because I'm on my way out. And I can be. So we're going to talk about the stories you want to hear, and some last-minute words of wisdom, and then just a little word about some of the resources that HR still has for you. But first, I saw this on Facebook, and I just think it's a great way to build on the superintendent's message from the rally. So if you want this to be your year, don't sit on the couch and wait for it. Go out and make a change. Smile more, be excited, do new things, throw away clutter, unfollow negative people on social media, go to bed early, wake up early, don't gossip, show more gratitude, do things that challenge you, and be brave. I just really think those are great words for us to think about. Lots of us are taking on new challenges, new grade levels, new schools, new subjects. So we are all going to go forth and be brave. So for this year's presentation, we are going to try some audience participation. Some of you may have played the game Never Have I Ever at home. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you confess to anything in front of your peers. But what we're going to do is turn that around a little bit and play Never Will I Ever. So we're going to practice. So when you see the slide, Never Will I Ever, and I point the magic wand, you guys together are going to say that. So we're going to practice, and administrators out there in TV land, I want everybody to play along, because research shows that when you do something, when you participate, you remember. And the point of this is for everybody to learn lessons. So here we go. We're going to practice. Never will I ever. Excellent. All right. So I hope everybody out there practiced, and so here we go. All right. So for real. Never will I ever. All right, never will I ever. Never will you ever send a student personal messages on Facebook. Never will you ever Snapchat with a student or send personal text to a student or text after hours. Because here's the thing, this fancy little device right here called a smartphone, well, it can be a weapon of mass destruction for your career. They are ubiquitous. They are in our hands. We use them all the time, and we can use them to forget to whom we are speaking. When you are speaking to a small person in front of you, you know. I'm the adult, this is a kid, you know. But when we use that smartphone device, it's easy to forget. So Mr. Husfeld has this phrase he uses all the time, you need to do what you think your career can handle. And every time I talk to people about not using their cell phones to communicate with students, they have a great list of things. But I'm a coach, but I'm a sponsor, but the kid, but. So here's the thing, you're professionals. You make the decision when you think it's appropriate and when it's not, because you need to decide what kind of level of risk you're willing to assume. That's your decision. But when you do that, you are assuming some risk. And here's the thing, no matter what decision you make, there's really no reason to be texting a kid at 11 o'clock at night. No matter who you are or what you need, we can't defend that to a parent, and that happened last year. There's no reason to use personal message on Facebook. No reason at all. If that kid needs homework help, email. They can find you by email, and you can correspond with them by email. And there's no reason to ever use Snapchat with a student. By nature of what it does, those disappearing messages, but mind you, law enforcement can get them, so they don't really disappear. But by nature of that correspondence, it just looks suspicious, even if it's the most innocent correspondence ever. So don't do that to yourself, okay? All right. Never will I ever. You guys are awesome. Blow a .215 at 2 p.m. on a workday. That's almost 3 times the legal limit. Okay, that's terrible. The reason I've included this slide, though, in the presentation is because of this. You heard the superintendent talk at the rally on Monday about the opioid epidemic in our community. Substance abuse is a real issue in our community. It's in our family, unfortunately. It's in our family of employees, and it's a very serious issue, and it's not something I'm trying to make light of. We have developed an incredible network at HR of resources. Our insurance policy is very generous when it comes to counseling support for mental health issues and for substance abuse. So if you're struggling with that, you need to know we've got help. You don't have to struggle with it alone. You don't have to just figure it out by yourself. So if that's you, if you're struggling with a substance abuse issue, whatever it is, you can come to HR. We will hook you up with the free counseling services we have. We have some really, really in-depth, detailed services available, so you're not alone. Brave people are the ones who come forward and ask for help before they get into trouble, okay? Before they do something that's a career ender or that they're going to regret forever. Equally brave people, and maybe even braver, are the colleagues of people who are struggling, who are brave enough to go to administration and say, I think my friend has a problem. Because we can't help people unless they come forward or unless you let us know that somebody needs assistance, because we have assistance. Our first move in a case like this is for help. It's not for corrective action or something like that. It's for help. How can we help this person? Because it's a disease. It's a medical issue, it's a disease, and we want to help. So I want you guys to know that help is there, that offer is sincere. All right.
Never will I ever.
Come to work so tired I literally fall asleep in the classroom after asking the kids to loan me their jackets to make a pillow. This is not a wise career move, okay? Here's the thing, though. This happened several times last school year, actually, okay? But the problem is this. You're thinking, oh my God, never, never. Okay, I first of all can't imagine ever falling asleep in front of a room full of kids. Like, whoa, what would they do? But if the problem is this, we've got employees who are up all night taking care of an elderly parent. We've got employees who are up all night taking care of a sick child. We've got employees who are in difficult financial circumstances who are up all night working a second job. We know that. Those are real, legit circumstances. And so then they're coming to work and doing the best they can. And sometimes these things happen to really, really good people who didn't intend for them to happen. So here's what I need you to understand. We need you 180 days, 176 of the kids. We need you. And I don't have enough subs. I mean, you know that. And I want you to know that we're advertising everywhere for subs, even on Craigslist. Okay, I'm everywhere I can be. We train them, but I'm everywhere. And if you've got another idea, I am all ears because we are doing all we can to find subs. So we tell you we need you to come to work every day and your kids need you. But then there's that day when you've been up all night with a screaming baby or an elderly parent, or you had to pull a second shift at your other job. You've got to take care of yourself. If that's a day you've got to call in, well, by golly, that's a day you've got to call in, because you've got to take care of yourself. It breaks my heart when I have to go and have a meeting with somebody who is a good person and they have done or said something that they would never normally do or say because of something like this, because they're sleep deprived, because they're under pressure or stress, and they've just snapped. And they would never normally do that. That's heartbreaking because we can't unsay whatever it is they said or undo whatever it is they did. So you've got to take care of yourself. If you've got to call in sick one day to make it the other 179, then that's what you have to do.
Never will I ever.
Good job. Invite a student over to my house to give him beer and cigarettes. Real story. Okay? So here's the thing, not such an issue with the little kids, but when we get to secondary, no matter how cute and charming, convincing and pleasant they are not our friends. We've got friends, grown-up friends. They're not our friends. Doesn't mean we can't have fun with them. Doesn't mean we can't love them, but they're not our peer group. We can't step in as surrogate parents. We can't bring them home, and we definitely can't provide them with illegal items, because you know what that's called? Contribution to the delinquency of a minor, and it's a criminal charge, and it's a career ender, deal breaker, okay? Big time bad stuff.
Never will I ever.
You guys are awesome. Pee in the parking lot at school no matter how badly I have to go. I don't make this stuff up. Now I will, in all honesty, I will tell you, this was not actually an employee. But I had to share it because it's just so stinking funny. It was a student who was more than old enough to know better, but I shared it with you because when you're in the classroom, I know you think, oh, I am dealing with all of the things. But I want you to know that your administrators, why, they're dealing with a lot of things too. And they're dealing with things that you might never know about. So they're dealing with things like this. Common sense is just not common. The good Dr. Haley, if you know Dr. Haley, that's one of his favorite sayings.
Never will I ever.
Use an alternative method of waking up a sleeping student, which means dripping water on his head from my water bottle. Okay, so this happened last year. So here's the thing. Did the teacher hurt the kid when she did that? No. She felt like she had a decent relationship with this kid. He's sleeping. She's annoyed. She walks past him. She drops some water on his head, okay? It was not well received by the student or his mother. And certainly that is not an approved Bay District Schools intervention for a sleeping student, right? So it didn't go very well. Here's the thing, are sleeping students annoying? Absolutely, okay? Been there, done that. I've been a classroom teacher. I know you stay up till midnight, you've planned the best lesson in the history of the free world, and sleeping Sally is snoring in the back. It's irritating. I get it. So what can you do? Call home, call an administrator, try for a one-on-one intervention. Here's what you got to remember from that rally. Sleeping Sally might have spent last night in her mama's car. Perhaps she didn't sleep well last night, and it's third period, and she's got nothing left in the tank. There may be a real reason, not just disrespect and defiance. It could be that, but it might not be that. We've got to take the time to figure that out before we just react the way that that might be our gut feeling. Embarrassing the student, never gonna work out for us. And here's what happened in this case. We addressed the situation with the teacher, clearly not. That's not the way we want you to treat our students. And we were done, okay? Not a career ender. It was a mistake. Life goes on. The mother went to DCF to open a child abuse and neglect case against the teacher, and then she went to the state attorney's office trying to get them to file battery charges against the teacher. 2 incredibly stressful trains on tracks. We couldn't stop it. We didn't start it. We had no way to intervene in that. And that was so much trauma and stress for the teacher that was just, we just had nothing we could do about that. And it was awful. So we don't want anyone to make that mistake again.
Never will I ever.
Put my hands on a kid to solve a behavior problem. If you've been around the last 6 years, you know I have harped and harped on this. And we're getting better. Good news is we're getting better, but we're still having this problem. So we cannot push the kid back into line. And I know I would be so tempted. You've lined up the kids and little Johnny's wandering and you corral him back into line. We had somebody on suspension with pay this summer, investigated by DCF because that's what she did. And Mama called DCF. And our district policy is if you're under suspicion and investigation by DCF for child abuse, we got to put you on suspension with pay because we have to. So this person was out for 2 weeks while being investigated. Cleared, but investigated. You can't push a kid back into their seat. You can't use your foot to hold a kid in the chair. Okay, don't even think about that. You can't rearrange a student's location in class by using the backpack he's wearing. Because if he's wearing it, it's like you're touching him too. So somebody tried to argue that with me. I didn't touch him, I just touched his backpack. Yeah, but he was wearing it and you lifted his feet off the floor. So you touched him, okay? So don't go there. So here's the thing. I'm saying don't touch a kid to correct his behavior. Now remember, I'm not saying don't touch a kid. You love on our kids because Lord knows they need it. You hug them, you high five them, you do whatever you need to do. Does this mean you shouldn't intervene when 2 second graders are about to tangle up or a kindergartner's running away from you? No. You are professionals. You use your professional judgment. We got your back. Okay? If it's a safety issue and other kids are in danger, you do what you need to do, what you're comfortable doing. But when it's just one kid and they're just misbehaving and nobody else is in danger, you can't put your hands on them. You got to call somebody else to help you out with that, okay? If somebody's having a meltdown, they're a little kid, move everybody else away and call somebody else to come help Mr. Meltdown, okay? You can't put your hands on him. Your career is far more important than whatever is happening in that moment. Okay? When I first started as an administrator, Mr. Husfeld told me that unless the situation involved like a gun or a knife, I didn't have to solve it that second. And that was really, took me a while to kind of think about that, but dealing with kids and discipline issues, and I realized that sometimes a little think time was really helpful for them and for me too. So, I mean, unless it's dire, you really don't have to solve it right in that second. Get so mad at my boss, I tell him, you need to get your together. Real talk. That really happened. So here's all I got to say about that. Grandma said, if you've got nothing nice to say, you should say nothing at all. Okay? Sometimes we just got to walk away.
Never will I ever.
Be so nasty to my fellow PLC members that we have to call for an administrator. Ladies and gentlemen, we have PLCs in this district that can't meet without an administrator. That's terrible, but it's true, but we're working on it. So here's the deal. PLCs are amazing. Collaboration is fabulous. Sometimes we have to agree to disagree. Sometimes we have to remember to not take that personally. Sometimes we have to remember who we're really here for. You know, the children. Sometimes we need to step outside and take a breather. And sometimes we need a drink of coffee. Of coffee, or John will have to come have a difficult conversation with you. The kind of teacher you will become is directly related to the kind of teachers you associate with. Teaching is a profession where misery does more than just love company. It recruits, seduces, and romances it. Avoid people who are unhappy and disgruntled about the possibilities for transforming education. They are the enemy of the spirit of the teacher. You choose who you hang out with at school, and you choose the conversations you engage in. That's completely within your circle of control. Complaining is finding faults. Wisdom is finding solutions. I hope we all find wisdom this school year.
Never will I ever.
Get so mad at a student I throw a soda bottle at him and beat him in the head. Not a good idea. So here's the thing. We've all had that kid, right? Hey, guess what? He's coming to school next Thursday. His mama's packing his backpack right now, and she's counting the days. He's going to be here, probably first off that bus. He's coming. So walk away, and remember, it's not about you. Remember, he's probably one of those kids. If he didn't sleep well last night, if he didn't eat well last night, if he doesn't know where he's going to sleep tonight, he's going to be a little crabby. I would be too, okay? So it's not about you. Call a neighbor if you need a minute, and you got to promise me this. If your classroom neighbor calls you and says this, you need to take Johnny right now. Take him. Just take him. Don't ask any questions. Just take him for 5 minutes and love on him. They'll pay you back. Count to 10. Count to 100. Whatever it takes. Think about sunshine and puppy dogs. Think about why you came into teaching and all those things. Think about your paycheck. And imagine having to explain the situation to me. Okay? Pull it back. Pull it in.
Never will I ever.
Spend my lunch break alone with a female student. Imagine you're a male teacher reading romance novels. Okay, so let me tell you how this happened. Imagine I'm Mr. Smith. I actually used Mr. Smith's name this morning, too. Sorry, Mr. Smith. I'm Mr. Smith, and I'm in my room at lunchtime, and I'm grading papers. And little Susie stops by, and she says, Mr. Smith, the girls are being really mean to me in the lunchroom. Can I sit in here for lunch? What's he going to do? Yes, honey, come on in. So she sits quietly. He's grading papers. She's reading her book. He's trying to make polite conversation, and he says, Susie, what are you reading? And she says, oh, it's a new Danielle Steele romance novel. I borrowed it from my mom. It's awesome. Listen to this part. And she reads it to him. He goes back to what he's doing. She goes home at the end of the day, and Mom says, honey, how was school? And she says, well, it was better today. I spent lunchtime just me and Mr. Smith alone in his classroom when we read my Danielle Steele romance book together. How fast do you think Mama calls me? And here he is being all innocent, just trying to be nice to the kid, okay? And of course, you know, he told me the story, and of course I re-explained it to Mom how it really happened, okay, not how it was portrayed. So here's the thing. We have to work really hard to maintain these firm professional boundaries. We got to be careful. Try not to find yourself alone with a student of the same or opposite gender. Be careful. If you're going to tutor in the library, tutor with your door open, so there's always somebody passing down that hallway. If you got to have a one-on-one conversation with a kid, do it at the hallway door, because again, somebody's going to pass by and see what's going on. Don't take a student in your personal vehicle. Now, I'm not talking about your kid and your kid's friends, but I'm talking about a kid home from school, just a stranger. And try to only use something like Remind 101 again if you're going to engage in that texting with students, because we just have to be so careful. And it's sad. It's sad. I started teaching in 2000. I can't tell you how many kids stayed after school for tutoring with me, and I couldn't tell you if they were boys or girls, alone or in groups, because I didn't care. Whoever needed tutoring, there we were. Door open, door closed. I mean, I didn't care. It wasn't a big deal back then. It is a big deal now, and I want you guys to be careful and protect yourselves.
Never will I ever.
Okay, this one's personal. Bring real medical tissue as an excuse for missing work. So let me tell you this story. There's an employee in my office, and he's missed a bunch of work. And so we're having a conversation about this. And he's kind of arguing. He hasn't missed as many days as I think he has. And so my head is down, and my hair is kind of like this, and I'm counting the number of days he's missed. And all of a sudden, I sense there's something in my face. So I pop my hair up like this, and there's a Ziploc bag right in my face. And I kind of recoil, and I look back, and there are small brown items in the bottom of this Ziploc bag. I'm a high school administrator, so I'm digging in my background knowledge. You know, what could this be? They are too large to be head lice. Could they be bed bugs? I've never seen a live bed bug, so I don't know. Maybe they're bed bugs. Could they be pot? They could be seeds of pot. So I say, not in a very poker face way, what is that? They were his actual kidney stones. He brought them to the meeting to show me that he really had kidney stones. I'm telling you. So here's the thing. If you miss a bunch of work and you need to bring us an excuse, a physician's note will do just fine. Thank you very much. I want to save Mr. Cannon from the kidney stones. Don't bring them. I've never seen a kidney stone like in my life, and I can't unsee it. It was, whoo. No, don't do that. But a little bit about leave. Mr. Cannon touched on this, but we can't stress this enough because people get confused. So as instructional folks, you get 10 days of total leave. 4 sick, 6 personal. So the difference is when you're sick, and you call in, I'm sick. When you want to take a personal day, you don't have to call in and say, oh, I'm really sick today. You can just call in and say, I'm not going to make it. Okay? You put in ASOP, you take that personal day. But they're not, the 6 days of personal leave is not plus those 10. So you've got 10 days. If you've already taken 5 of them as sick days, then you don't have 6 personal because you only have 5 left because 10 is the total. If you worked for us last year full-time, you're eligible for up to 12 weeks of family medical leave. So if you do have an ongoing medical issue over and above the 10, you qualify for 12 weeks of family medical leave, and that's something we would talk to you about in HR, help you with the paperwork, the documentation. Please also remember that our wellness clinic offers after hours and weekend appointments. So if you are sick and need to see somebody, you don't have to go during the school day. You can go after work or on the weekends. It's free if you haven't gone. You don't have to worry about your deductible. And if the medicine you need is part of the 200 most commonly prescribed medicines, you're going to walk out of there with that medication in a little brown paper bag, and you didn't even have to pay for it. So it's really a phenomenal benefit. So what can HR do for you this year? As I said earlier, I'm really proud of some of the services that we've built up. We can make a counseling referral for you, not just for substance abuse. Many people are struggling with transitions in their lives, getting a divorce, empty nest syndrome, just all sorts of different things, and they need some counseling to help them get through that. So you can come and make an appointment to come into HR, talk a little bit about what's going on, and we can match you with the right counseling referral. Our insurance is phenomenal about picking up their part. It's going to be not of any cost to you. So we have some great counseling services. We can also talk to you towards the end of the school year about maybe a transfer opportunity. Some people love what they're doing, but maybe 2/3 into the year they say, I really love what I do. I love the kids I'm teaching, but I don't feel like this is my school family. I think I might need a different school family. How do I transfer? So that's a service we provide in HR, and there are people all over the district who've taken advantage of that and have transferred to a different school and found their total absolute school family. The third thing we can do for you in HR is help you pass the general knowledge test. If you are new to Bay District Schools, new to teaching, you have to pass this test within your first year of hiring, and it's a tough one. We have boot camp once a month. It's free for full-time employees. You need to sign up and come ASAP so we can help you through that test. Couple of last thoughts. Teachers who put relationships first don't just have students for 1 year, they have students who view them as their teacher for life. You've got lots of standards to do, to teach. You've got huge lesson plans and things you've got to get through. But I want you to think about Thursday and Friday next week. If you spend Thursday and Friday developing a relationship with your students, then they'll do all the other things you want them to do. They've got to feel like you've got their back, and then they'll have yours. So Thursday and Friday are so important for relationship building. But remember, you only have so much emotional energy every day. Don't spend it on things that don't matter or on people who don't value you or your time. You need to be discerning about where you put your time. So I want you to, these are some final thoughts. I want you to remember you're not alone. I want you to ask for help. I have always considered my email, whether I'm in my old job or my new job, to be your help desk. You are busy. You are in the trenches. You got a question? You email it to me. I will find you the answer. If I don't know it, I will hook you up with someone who does. Every school's got parents who complain. It's not just your school. Every school's got challenging kids. It's not just your school. We know you're working as hard as you can. Please don't ever think that anything you're asked to do, we don't know. You're working as hard as you can. The kids know it. They won't tell you because they're kids. Parents know it. Some of them tell you, some of them don't. So here's the thing. It's now my job in my new role as Director of Communication, Glenda the Good Witch, to make sure that the public knows and appreciates what you do. 100% of the time, once I make this transition, I am committed to selling what we do to this community. They need to know what a gem you are. Karen Tucker's done a great job being that person for, I think she's been with us 22 years. For as long as she has done it, she has done a great job. I am going to capitalize on what she's done, build on what she's done, and hopefully take it to a new place. I want our community to know what gems you are. I'm a product of Bay District Schools. I went to Gulf Coast. I went to FSU, although I am a Gator, but that's a long story. My FSU diploma is actually matted and framed in orange and blue. That's my diploma, and I'll do what I want. Anyway, I want them to know the good work you're doing. I want, when my car pulls up, I want you guys to be like, hey, come to my room. Come see what I'm doing. We're going to do Facebook Live. We're already tweeting out more stuff. I want all of you guys to go to the Bay District Schools Facebook page and like and follow that page. We've got a countdown going right now, the countdown to school. It's going to be a great place to get information about what's going on. Hopefully more of our parents will join up and follow Facebook. So it's my job to make sure that you are celebrated as the heroes that you really are, because what you do matters, and they appreciate you even if they don't tell you, but I'm going to work on making sure they do tell you. And my last thought, dear tired teacher, when the expectations begin to feel impossible, remember, because of you, today someone smiled, made a connection, became more confident, and felt loved. Don't give up. You will never, ever be able to put a dollar value on what you do. These kids are living through crap like we can't even imagine. But what they'll remember is not so much of the crap. They're not going to remember the specific nights they didn't have dinner. They're not going to remember the specific days that they cried, but they're going to remember that third grade teacher who made them feel like a rock star. They're going to remember that sixth grade math teacher who turned the light bulbs on for them and made sixth grade incredible. They're going to remember that high school social studies teacher who brought history alive for them and made them want to become a teacher. They're going to remember you. They're not going to remember the circumstances of that year, but they're going to remember you. You truly are changing lives every single day. They don't just shake your hand at the end of the day and say, thank you for changing my life. That doesn't happen. But you are changing lives. What you do is incredible. We appreciate you, and thank you.